So the Buddha starts by first asking, is there a demonstrable requisite condition for aging and death? So to me, it says a, it doesn't say the, so it's one of many conditions, but it's demonstrable. It's a demonstrable. So it means that, for me, that means it has to be able to be seen, to be shown, demonstrated. So to me, it's not just like something to be believed, but to be something to be witnessed, to be proven in a way. Requisite, required. So without this condition, then aging and death won't happen. So the first question was, is there a demonstrable requisite condition, DRC, for aging and death? Now, why this question, you may ask? Well, one of the key aspects of the Buddhist project is that it's a soteriological project. It's salvific. Soteriological, it's for salvation. It's to save us. Save us from what? Save us from suffering, from the suffering of life, from the discontentedness, the unsatisfactoriness of life. Yeah. And aging and death is a good place to start, because even if I'm living my best life, every day I'm living the best possible life I can live, I'm still aging, and one day I will die. So there's sorrow in that, there's suffering in that, even if I'm living the good life. And that's not saying the obvious, when people actually suffer, when we suffer because of physical ailments, psychological, and not getting what we want, and getting what we want. So that's a question. And the Buddha said, if someone asks you, is there a DRC for aging and death? The answer is yes. And the DRC, the demonstrable requisite condition for aging and death, is birth. So without birth, there's no aging and death. And then Buddha goes on to ask, what is the DRC for birth? And the Buddha says, yes, there is a DRC for birth, and it's becoming. And then what is the DRC for becoming? The Buddha said, yes, there's a DRC for becoming, and it's clinging. And what's the DRC for clinging? It's craving. And what's the DRC for craving? It's feeling. And what's a DRC for feeling? It's contact. And what's a DRC for contact? Name and form. And what's a DRC for name and form? It's consciousness. And then lastly, what's the DRC for consciousness? It's name and form. So this is the end of the analysis, the breakdown, the looking at the primary factors of experience, it's like a functional breakdown of the DRC, the demonstrable requisite condition of aging and death. And at the end of this breakdown, decomposition comes name and form. And what is a DRC for name and form? Consciousness. And what is a DRC for consciousness, name and form? So that's where becomes like a co-arising, mutual causality, mutual causation, reciprocal causality. So name and form and consciousness causes each other, or conditions each other. And then the Buddha recapped. So the Buddha went backwards, starting from aging and death, till you reach this name and form and consciousness. And then he re-summarized it going forwards, and he goes from Name and form comes consciousness. Consciousness comes name and form. Conditions name and form. Name and form conditions contact. Contact conditions feeling. Feeling conditions craving. Craving conditions clinging. Clinging conditions becoming. Becoming conditions birth. And birth is a condition, a demonstrable requisite condition for aging, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, despair. All these come into play when birth is a demonstrable requisite condition. And the Buddha called this the origination of this mass of distress. So in this first part of the sutta, the Buddha laid out the decomposition of aging, and the further decomposition, or it's almost like a genealogy in terms of conditions of requisite demonstrable conditions of aging and dying. And then further on in the sutta, he will then go one by one of these relationships. So he will unpack more how this DRC of, for example, aging and death and birth. So he will go and unpack more of this as we go along, which we'll do in the next videos. So this is just the first overview of Paticca Samuppada, dependent co-arising of suffering, of this mass of stress. And these are the factors, functional decomposition of conditions that lead to this. And if you bear with me, as we go further down this route, it will get interesting because it feeds into ethics, into practices that we are so lucky to have been bequeathed by the Buddhist project. So, see you in the next one.